Before we start, I have a few instructions for you. This demonstration is going to be over 1 hour. During this demonstration, you will not be given organizer access, which means you will not be able to go and record the session, or you will not have the option to directly record the session or unmute yourself. So in case during this demonstration, if you have any questions or if you have anything to ask, there's an option on the GoToMeeting panel which says raise your hand. Alright, so if you raise your hand, we'd be able to either unmute you or we'd be able to see if we should hold it and then talk to you. In case you have any questions that cannot wait till the end, you could ask your questions or you could leave a message on the chat so that we'd be able to answer those questions for you. Alright. Today's demonstration is going to be on HANA and BW on top of HANA. In case you have any questions around HANA, boards, or business objects, BW, you could always ask those questions around it. All right. So we'll start the demonstration now, and yeah. One more thing, the session will be recorded by the organizer, and they will be sending you the recorded link once this demonstration is over. You could download that. Even the presentations used in this demonstration will be also sent to you. Alright, so do not worry about writing notes and stuff. Alright. The demo basically is on HANA and BW on HANA. We would also be touching a little bit of BODS on HANA as well. All right. Okay. The presentation will have some of the topics that we are going to cover. We will be sending the contents of what we're going to do to your email. So make sure that you put in the right email when you are attending the session so that we'd be able to communicate with you. All right. So the first two slides are basically what we're going to cover on the HANA front. All right, what we would be looking at when we're understanding HANA. So we would first build our understanding on HANA, then we will be looking at BW on top of HANA. Okay, so when we're looking at HANA, this is what we're going to cover. I'll come back to this slide again. Let's first understand the architecture of HANA and how it's placed on the SAP landscape, and then we'd come back to look at how we're going to look at each of these topics. Now, I hope all of you know what HANA means, High Performance Analytical Appliance. This is a combination of hardware and software. It's an appliance basically used for bringing in data at operational speeds or real-time speeds. Now we have within the environment usually an operational system or the system which we use for handling our business, and the biggest issue is to be able to handle analytics at real times for these business environments or for this operational data. SAP already has a solution for analytics from the operational system, and that we call it as BW. All right, it is termed in multiple ways. Sometimes it is called as business warehouse or business intelligence or business information warehouse. There are different terminologies that are used for the analytics system that we have on top of the operational system. Today we're going to look at how SAP HANA caters to providing data or analytics at real time. Now the operational system that we regularly see on the SAP landscape is the ECC system. And it doesn't really stop just at SAP operational system. You have the ability to use HANA with not just SAP but with also non-SAP systems. All right. The landscape of SAP HANA is, or the roadmap of SAP HANA is such a way that it is placed ideally to cater to any of the operational systems from SAP or non-SAP systems. We need to bring data into SAP HANA to process the data at real-time speeds. The SAP HANA appliance intrinsically has its SAP HANA database inside it. The database is a combination, or is basically a hybrid database. The database is hybrid for the fact that it is a little different from the rest of the databases. The rest of the databases have their data stored on the hard drive, whereas with SAP HANA, the data is stored on the RAM, right? Meaning you're not going to store data physically onto any system or any hardware, but we're going to hold the data on the RAM. You all know what RAM is. This is the main memory on a server or a system where the data is always available, right? It is more like on a laptop you have cache memory. So the cache is available for you at very fast access, all right? So the whole point of having the entire data on the RAM is for you to be able to access your data at real-time speeds. It's one of the main reasons why you are able to process data at real-time speeds. There are also a lot of other things that will add up to the in-memory computing. We'll talk about that as we go along. Now, coming to the point that data is brought at real time from each of these systems. Just give me one moment. So data is brought at real-time speeds from the business systems. Usually you would have SAP as the source, which is the ECC system, but it is possible for you to have even Oracle or any other database, or even bring data from flat files. All right. Now, a secret here is that SAP HANA is a database, and SAP HANA cannot generate data by itself, which means you should provide data into SAP HANA for you to process data at real-time speeds, right? Even if it's from ECC, or if it's from non-SAP systems, or if it's from a warehouse or any other system. If you want to process data at real-time speeds, you need to have to bring data into SAP HANA. The SAP HANA box or appliance is a combination of hardware which has very high configuration, or you can say it is a server on steroids. So it has very high combination, very high configuration, and then you also have the SAP HANA software provided by SAP, which is called as the SAP HANA Studio, which is basically aimed at optimizing the power of the SAP server. So the interface is on the SAP HANA Studio, and we'd be trying to define and design the objects within the SAP HANA Studio. Now, if I want to go ahead and picture this, this is how it's going to look like. Let me just open an Excel sheet to give you a little picture. Just give me a moment. So on the SAP HANA landscape, first thing that we need is, or we have an ECC system or a business system where data is being processed. This is the ECC environment. We could also have other systems like databases or other applications or even flat files. And before we talk about SAP HANA, we have another system which is the analytical system that was provided by SAP. Okay. And we call this system as the business warehouse or BW. All right. So there is a very tight integration between ECC and BW. Now in ECC, data is processed at business speeds, meaning the business is basically handled on ECC. Likewise, if you have a database or an application or flat files where data is processed at business speeds, then we need to go ahead and bring the data into BW and process this. Now the only catch about BW is, since we have a lot of business happening on the ECC system, there was not a privilege to directly access data as it is happening into BW. You have something called as extractors that are defined on the ECC system, and you could go and run these extractors to bring data into BW. But they didn't want to go ahead and overload the system with trying to extract data from ECC at business hours. So the idea was to extract data after the business hours. So let's say you have the business hours between 9 in the morning to 6 in the evening. Then you would start your extraction of data only after 6 p.m., probably 8 p.m. to let's say something around 6 a.m. in the morning. So this is your window that is given for moving all the data from ECC into the BW environment. Now because of this spacing in time, your business is happening between 9 and 6, and you're able to bring your data into the analytical system almost into the next day. You're always lagging at least by 12 hours before you are able to generate reports. Now the BW environment basically allows you to build models in here, which basically organize your data that you're bringing in from ECC, making it completely independent of the ECC system for analytics. Now it offers very good modeling techniques and processing and all that, but the only problem is that you have data at a lag of at least 12 hours to 24 hours. So you're basically looking at data from yesterday in today's analytics. So that is basically, we're lagging in by 12 to 24 hours. That is not what our enterprise wants at this kind of scenario. We would want to look at data at real time, and so this either had to be moved data at real time into BW, or we needed another system which basically allows us to handle data or handle analytics at real time. Now the first solution that SAP has given is to use the SAP HANA box. The SAP HANA appliance basically is, like I told you, is a combination of hardware and software. The hardware basically is used because it has very high configuration, and you're looking at very high RAM capabilities and capacities. Over 1 TB and 4 TB RAMs is what are being used with the SAP HANA hardware. On the software side, the SAP HANA basically is a hybrid database. It is having an interface using the SAP HANA Studio, and some other important terms such as the column store aid in extremely fast processing with SAP HANA. So instead of actually bringing data from ECC into BW, you have a parallel system which basically allows you to even process data at real-time speeds. Now the SAP HANA is an appliance which is dependent on data. Alright, like just like how BW is dependent on data, SAP HANA is also dependent on data. It has the ability to process data at very fast speeds. That is, if you have data inside SAP HANA. So you should find a way to bring that data from ECC into HANA. SAP has proposed a few engines to basically bring in data into SAP HANA, and there are a few engines like you have something called as SLT, Business Objects Data Services, Sybase, and DXC. So since SAP HANA needs to bring in data, or that you need to go ahead and push data into SAP HANA before you can process it, you need an engine basically to cater to the kind of emergency on reporting that you're looking at. Meaning, are you looking at reporting at real-time speeds, or are you looking at reports at near real-time speeds? So if you're looking at real-time speeds, you would probably go with either SLT or Sybase for bringing data into SAP HANA. But the constraint is SLT basically only brings data as is from the ECC system into SAP HANA. It has very little capability for transformation. It has the capability for transformation, but it is very dependent on ABAP. Right? Similarly, okay, there are a couple of questions here from Farhad. So to be more generic, I'm going to define these as the OLTP systems in an industry. OLTP system is an online transaction processing system, and BW is an OLAP system, online analytical processing system. The ECC term stands for Enterprise Central Component, which is where the operations and business happens on the SAP systems in the enterprise. The analytics happen on BW system, which is Business Warehouse. So coming back to what we were talking, to bring data at real time into HANA, you need different kinds of engines. Some enterprises use just one engine. Some enterprises use a combination of different engines, so that at one point we're bringing data as is into the system. On the other side, we are also handling data for transformation to bring it into SAP HANA. All right. Each has its own advantage and disadvantage. We will talk about these as we go along. Now, SLT stands for SAP's Landscape Transformation Server, which is an intermediate system that we have to bring data from ECC, majority of times SAP systems, into SAP HANA. It is a real-time processing engine, and you have very little capability for transformation on the SLT server. All right. It also is upgraded to handle a few databases, meaning on the source side you could even bring data from a few databases, non-SAP systems, into SAP HANA at real-time speeds as well. Business Objects Data Services is a second engine where you are able to bring data from ECC databases, flat files, web services, name the system, and you can bring data from any system into SAP HANA through Business Objects Data Services. It has a very high transformation capability. It also has the ability for data quality. So you are able to transform data, and you are also able to cleanse data before you bring it into SAP HANA. The only catch for Business Objects Data Services is it's not real-time but near real-time. So we'd have to process data multiple times in a day so that we keep SAP HANA refreshed with the latest data from the ECC or any business systems into SAP HANA. Sybase is also called as log-based replication. This is specifically for databases or non-SAP systems into SAP HANA. It basically processes the data in the form of logs from the databases into SAP HANA database, and it is the fastest replication method to bring data into SAP HANA. Right? Doesn't have any capability for transformation, so it is not a very regular use case as well. DXC, Direct Extractor Connection, is also another method to bring data into SAP HANA. It allows data to be brought from the native ECC or NetWeaver systems with having a native BW on top of them to bring data into SAP HANA. Since I'm hoping that you would have a little understanding with BW, you have something called as a persistent staging area on BW at the entry level when you're trying to bring data into BW environment. And this on a native system, this is called as the PSA, persistent staging area. So if it's there on a native NetWeaver stack, what happens is the extractors bring data to the PSA, and instead of the PSA layer, you're replacing that with a HANA layer. So instead of bringing it to the PSA, you bring data to the HANA layer. It is not a regular use case, but you could probably explore, or we could probably explore trying to bring data to through DXC into SAP HANA. It has the capability for transformation. There is not a real-time replication as well. So these are the 4 different tools that we use for bringing data into SAP HANA. Once you bring data into SAP HANA, this is where the entire process and performance optimization is handled within SAP HANA. The SAP HANA, I have told you, is an intrinsic, or it is basically an appliance, but intrinsically it has the heart of it is the HANA database. The HANA database is an in-memory database. It's not a usual or regular database. But the fact that data is not stored directly onto the hard drive, but it is stored on the RAM or the main memory. Now, when you're processing data here within SAP HANA, there are a few things that will aid for the performance of the SAP HANA real-time processing. One thing here is that the first thing is completely dependent on how you are bringing data into SAP HANA. How fast can you bring it in here? You could use either of these tools, SLT or boards or Sybase or DXC, to bring data into HANA. That is the first dependent thing. Once you bring data into HANA, you also have a persistence layer, which is a relative term with regards to SAP HANA, because we're storing data on the RAM. On the RAM, you will have the only problem with storing data on the RAM is it is volatile data. If your server goes off, then your entire data that is there on the RAM is also erased. So you also have, on the administration side, you also have backup and recovery as some of the main features when you're looking at administration with SAP HANA, because you need to have that data stored somewhere else. If not, in case the server goes down, either because of natural calamities or because of a power failure, then you would lose all the data that is there on HANA. So there is always a secondary backup, cold backup and hot backup, and so you always keep your data available on a secondary system as well. Now, coming back onto SAP HANA appliance itself, the SAP HANA appliance has the ability to process data at real-time speeds. That comes from some of the advantages like the in-memory, which is data being stored on the RAM. Now, you have on the hardware side something called as a multi-core architecture. All of you know that on our laptops we have dual-core processors and quad-core processors. The whole point of using these processors is to handle to parallelly process the data. Now, if you are looking at a million rows of data, so if you have one core on your system, like a single-core processor, let's say it's taking 10 minutes for you to process. If you're having a dual core, the same thing will be processed in half the time. Basically because you have 2 processors processing the data, but you're splitting the data into 2 halves and processing it. Imagine yourself having 4 cores where you are splitting the data into 4 parts and then you're processing the data individually. Like this, SAP HANA servers have almost 10 cores on each processor. So the CPU has the ability to handle 10 cores, meaning it is splitting the data into 10 parts and processing it. So your time is going to come down 10 times. Apart from that, you have something called as boards where you are able to accommodate multiple processors. So one board can accommodate almost, let's say, 8 CPUs. So if you're looking at each CPU can handle 10 cores, and then there are 8 CPUs on one board, so you're looking at 80 cores on a server or on a blade. Now the blade servers can accommodate multiple boards as well. So if you're looking at 4 boards, you're looking totally at 320 cores on each blade. So like this you can have multiple blades, and SAP HANA servers have blade servers. Alright, and if you have 3 or 4, then you're looking at almost 1000 cores, where parallel processing is done on 1000 cores. Now that is one of the biggest advantage for processing data very fast when you're using SAP HANA. Another important feature is on the software side, where you have something called as the column store. The column store is a technology where you're storing data in the form of, let's say, you are aware of normal columns, right? Rows and columns. When you look at a table, you would find that data is stored in the form of a table. And you have the headers where you have columns, field 1, field 2, field 3 and all that. And you have data here. Let's say you have data from customer ID. You have something like material ID, amount, and price. Let's say you have 4 columns. So you have something like C001 through and M001 through. Now, you might have a amount and price, and when you're doing with a normal database, if you're trying to fetch data, trying to see what is the data bought by customer C007, or what is the amount that is bought by C007, the system has to read through each of the rows completely, meaning it comes into the first column, first row, and then it knows that this is not, let's say our query is to look at C007. But instead of going there directly, what we're going to look at is the way the data is processed is to read from left to right, and then if data is not there, come back to the beginning of the row again, read through the entire row, come back to the third row, read through the entire row. So though it is not the result, the system doesn't have an option except to read through the entire row, come back. There is quite a lot of time that is deprived or delayed because of doing this process, though it is very trivial and very small when you're trying to do small amount of rows. But when you're looking at millions of rows, you will find that there is quite some amount of data that is, or time that is wasted. Now SAP HANA brings in this new technology called as column stores, where we're taking this entire table and splitting it into 4 different columns or column tables. You have customer ID as one table, material ID as one table, amount as one table, price as one table, and each of these tables are linked using an index. When you read the data, you're going to read the data directly on individual tables. So you don't have the option, or you have the option to read data vertically than go through horizontally. So instead of reading from the moment you see that customer C001 is not the right customer for our query, you don't have to read the entire row. You go straight down to find out where C007 is. By the 7th iteration, you are able to find out the result, and then the index joins all of these individual tables and then brings out the result. So that is extremely fast when you're comparing it with the traditional approach of how you're storing data. The advantage is you have data stored in both column store and also in the row store. When you're trying to handle inserts, updates, and deletes on the HANA database, we're going to handle it on the row store, because the column store, to insert a data or to delete a data, you will have to delete it in 4 different tables, and that becomes difficult. But instead, on a traditional approach, if you have a row store, you could go ahead and insert a data or delete a data directly, and that's a much faster process. So you have 2 instances of how data can be stored, both on the row store and column store. So on the software side, we have that being in the system. You have abilities like partitioning and all of them automatically added into it. On the column store also, you have a very high compression rate, almost 1:5 on the system. So the design is something that is pretty important for you to go ahead and define that. Also, The SAP HANA's way of storing data, I told you, is to store data on the RAM. They also have a persistence layer, or the system also has a persistence layer. The persistence layer allows you to bring data from any of these engines, let's say SLT boards or Sybase or DXE. The data is first brought into the persistence layer, and that is the only layer where data is stored. All right. The rest of the models that you bring on top of this persistence layer, which is basically on this base tables, is to build something called as views. We all know what views are. Views are basically relating tables using joins, and that is what exactly we're going to do within the SAP HANA interface. Now we bring the tables individually into the persistence layer, or we go ahead and bring in these tables Yeah. So there's a question from Noor Ansari which says, is in this case number of tables will be increasing. This will increase the size of database. How do we manage that? So the ability for having two instances of how to store data will also have the ability to compress data, meaning because of the column stores and not a lot of master data is usually distinct. There's a lot of repetition of master data. You are able to compress the data as well. So you don't really use a lot of data. Definitely when you're looking at storing data on the RAM, unlike your traditional approach of hard drives, you have a constraint of storing too much of data, and usually data that is over 4 years or 5 years is usually not the kind of data that we use very regularly. You can archive that data, and whenever you want you can bring that data into the RAM as well. So that provision also is available in case you think that data is being too much of data is being pushed onto the RAM. Right? So that's the answer, Noor. So here, when we're talking about the persistence layer, so what we have on SAP HANA is that we're going to bring data onto the modeling layer. We're not bringing data, but we're creating only views. You all know that views really do not hold any data. They're just structures which basically define a condition between different tables as how you can join those tables. All right. So you might have tables like VBAK or VBUK or VBAP or VBUP. So you define a way of how you can join data, and you will choose relatively what are the columns that you need and what you don't. So I'm just giving you an example. So let's say I want to bring in some header data from sales, VBAK and VBUK. Each of these tables have around 80 fields, so you're totally looking at 140 fields. When you bring in VBAK and VBUK to the base tables, VBAK / VBUK, you bring them to the persistence layer, all right? And then you choose that I want to bring in some data relating to the header of sales. I want to bring in document number and a few other columns, and also I want to bring in some of the status flags. So totally I probably want only 20 columns instead of all the 150 columns. So I will choose just those 20 columns within the VBAK and VBUK. I'll define the join that relates VBAK and VBUK. Let's say that is a referential join or an inner join. So once I define that, that is my view, all right? So I will use the data from this view and I will use it for reporting. So you don't at any point not store data into multiple layers, unlike how we have done traditionally on the BW system. On the BW approach, we've seen that we have multiple layers. We have the right optimized DSO, then the standard DSO, then the InfoCube, then the multi-provider, then info sets, and then finally we are going to report that onto the Business Explorer or any other business objects reporting tools. But here you don't have so many layers. The total number of models that you have within SAP HANA are only 3. Either you could use an attribute view, which is similar to dimensions, an analytic view, which is usually a star schema or similar to an InfoCube, and then you have something which basically allows you to handle complex joins which is nothing but a multi-provider in BW. We call it here as the calculation view. So these are the only three views that are there on SAP HANA interface. So you will have to understand very clearly about the kind of joins that you can use to go and link data on SAP HANA, and then based on this you can go ahead and bring out the data onto the reporting layer. SAP HANA does not have a proprietary reporting tool, but it uses different reporting tools on top of the SAP HANA, whichever can integrate either directly onto the database or the tools which can have a semantic layer through which you can generate the reports. The majority of times you will be using business objects reporting tools like WebXstream analysis. Now WebXstream and dashboards need a semantic layer, and that is done using the IDT, and the IDT connects onto the SAP HANA system, and then we'll be generating business layers and generating universes using that, which can be used by the WebXstream and dashboards. You can also connect directly to SAP HANA, and if you have a JDBC or ODBC connection, you can directly connect onto the SAP HANA system too. So these are all the provisions. You also have reporting tools like Lumira and predictive analytics also that can be used on top of SAP HANA box. Now, how does this basically allow you to use with BW? Now we've seen that ECC is our operational system, and from there we're going to bring data to BW, and the processing is kind of delayed because we have a whole lot of data in here, multiple layers, and then we are storing on a traditional database, and then we're trying to bring data to the reports to the BEX layers, and this is a complex structuring of how data can be stored on BW. So is there a way to improve that? All right, so usually what happens is, okay, there's a question from Srini. Srini?
You said IDT. What is IDT?
IDT is Information Design Tool. It's a tool that is on business objects reporting side, which basically allows you to design a universe. A universe is a semantic layer, which is more like a structure from multiple tables or multiple sources that you can create on the reporting layer, and based on that you can build reports in either Webby or Crystal or dashboards in business objects. All right?
All right, thank you.
Good. Mohammed Mustafa?
Yeah, can you tell us which tool we're going to use to connect to SAP HANA, and are we going to have access to it?
Yeah, we're going to have SLT, Business Objects Data Services, and DXC on our servers so that you could go and access to bring data into SAP HANA. You would have access into SAP HANA Studio for you to build different views and models inside this. You also have a BW system with HANA as an underlying database. You have ECC, you have Business Objects Data Services, and you also have the reporting tools of Business Objects, Lumira. So you could go ahead and pretty much work on it just like any production system.
For how long is we gonna have access to the server?
During it's for 2 months or 3 months. You could speak to Ravi about this. He'll be helping you with the server access and all of this. All right. All right.
Okay.
All right, so we've looked at basically trying to understand what HANA could do as okay, any other questions, guys? All right, so let me come back to questions in a bit. We'll quickly look at how SAP HANA can be also used as an underlying database. So BW has this complex structuring where you are able to provide multiple wonderful models like you have the info cubes, which is a multidimensional model with extended star schema modeling. That cannot be achieved by any other tool. But what's happening here is because of multiple layering, you are ending up bringing data at pretty slow speeds. You're already lagging by 12 to 24 hours, and then to generate reports on top of BW is also taking a little while. So SAP has, now the appliance of SAP HANA is a little expensive. All right. So not a lot of, sometimes you will have to think whether you will really need data at real-time speeds, or can you go without having data at real-time speeds but still use pretty similar process like how SAP HANA is being processed. So for that, they have come up with a way of how you could deal to bring data. Now, one method is to use SAP HANA appliance or use SAP HANA as a database. Now, I told you that within the HANA appliance, the core of SAP HANA is the SAP HANA database, which is the in-memory database. Now, the thing is, if you are able to use that just like any other normal database, the processing speed can be improved on the application that is using it. So you have Oracle database, and BW as an OLAP system, analytical system, basically on the application, the BW is the application, but on the underlying side, you have the database, which is the Oracle database. Okay, so instead of using the Oracle database, is there a provision to use, instead of Oracle, HANA as an underlying database? So BW on HANA is a term where we're going to use, instead of using Oracle, we're going to use whatever is the heart of the HANA appliance, which is the HANA database. We're going to replace traditional databases with the HANA database. When you replace it with the HANA database, HANA supports basically only star schema modeling, all right? And so the application has to be modeled or has to be changed to accommodate this kind of database. And so they have come up with versions of BW7.3, and latest we have BW7.4, basically to accommodate the SAP HANA as an underlying database. The traditional approach of how BW is processed is changed when you are using BW on top of HANA. You do not have the same multidimensional modeling that you have previously on the traditional approach. You have info cubes, you have DSOs and all of that, but it is a little different from what you have on the normal BW system. The approach sometimes remains the same, but the underlying architecture is going to change, where you are probably not using dimension modeling inside the SAP HANA or SAP BW on HANA info cubes. Now, it also gives you the ability to, the SAP HANA is very, very fast and very quick because you're processing data on the in-memory part. Now, so what we're trying to do with the new structuring of BW is to push down our entire transformation layer onto the SAP HANA database. Now, on the BW application, you have different layers, like you have a write-optimized DSO, you have a standard DSO, you have info cubes, you have multi-providers, and then you have info sets. Now, the first three layers physically hold data, meaning you need to push data into each of these. Apart from that, you also will be loading data to the persistent staging area. So you have 4 layers of physically stored data in them. On top of that, you have a multi-provider like a view, and on top or alongside you also have info sets. And on top of this is where you're handling your reporting. So between how you're pushing data from each of these layers, you are also handling transformation. Between PSA and write-optimized DSO, you can apply transformations, or between write-optimized and standard DSO, you can apply transformation, or between standard DSO and info cubes, you can apply transformation as well. But applying transformation and doing it on the application level is always costly. But instead, we are trying to go ahead and bring down that capability of transformation down, or pushing down to the database. You must have heard of a push-down mechanism basically for improving performance. So what we're trying to do is push down the entire transformation capability onto the SAP HANA database so that the performance can be increased. Over and above that, there is a scenario where a customer has both HANA appliance and BW in parallel. All right. The way it looks at is, so you have the ECC system. You have the BW environment, and you also have the HANA appliance. All right. So he might be having a BW system prior, or he must have bought a BW system, because within HANA you are looking at only reports that need to be viewed at real-time speeds. All right. You don't build everything in HANA, but you will only build reports that need real-time speeds or operational speeds reporting. Those are what we're going to look at in SAP HANA. So when you are looking at the BW environment, so some of the data is being sent to SAP HANA for real-time processing. The remaining data is sent to BW, traditional BW, where you're handling modeling and then you're reporting on BECs and all of that. Now, the change is, can we accommodate BW with HANA? So you have an appliance, and HANA is like a database, and it's an RDBMS, and you have multiple databases or schemas that you create on the database, right? So here, what we're doing is, the approach is to create a schema. So let's say I have a schema called as SAP BW4, all right? That is one of the schemas that I have created, and I'm giving this schema as an underlying database for BW. All right, so BW, the underlying database which used to be Oracle, is migrated or replaced by the schema or the HANA database, and the schema that is used here is SAP BW4. Now, when you look at this, you basically are processing BW individually, but what you are looking at also is bringing this data directly into HANA database. So instead of using the database in here, you're parallelly using the schema between the HANA system and the BW environment. So this gives you the ability to bring the data actually into the HANA appliance. Though you're processing your data within BW appliance, the underlying database is where data is stored. And this is on the HANA appliance, which means when you process data and when you push down, the system is going to react very fast. The processing speeds are the same as what you have on the SAP HANA appliance. And so this gives you the ability not just to process data at real-time speeds, but also gives you the advantage to bring data from HANA into this individual schema as well. So within HANA, you might have data being brought from different systems, like another system from a database, or you could have brought data from a flat file or any other application, but it gives you the ability to bring and link data between these different systems with the schema that you already have. All right, so you call that as the ODS view or the ODS layer. So it allows you to go ahead and bring data virtually and physically into BW systems. So you have with BW7.4 the ODS view layer, where you can go ahead and link data between the SAP HANA other than BW into SAP BW. So it allows you to combine data from different sets. You also have concepts like composite provider, where you can bring a HANA model. So within the SAP HANA Studio, the modeling capability is to build either attribute view or analytic view or calculation view. And we can go ahead and move these views into SAP HANA as transient providers and composite providers. So you can build something like a combination view between attribute views and also the info cubes and DSOs that are already inside the BW system. So it allows you to bring data between HANA and BW at the same level. All right. So you also have a few changes that are done on the standard info cubes, where you have the SAP HANA as you call them as cubes powered by HANA. So you have the dimensional layer going off, and then reducing the complexity on the cubes. You have also the standard DSOs. DSOs are data store objects, where you have 3 tables in DSOs: the new table, the changelog table, and the activation table. Now the changelog table is where the track of all the changes are kept. Now that is changed to a view inside SAP HANA. So because you're having a HANA layer in here, when you are trying to do anything on the BW side, you're reflecting directly data on this. One more important thing is that because you're using one of the schemas from HANA, you are able to look at the BW data immediately on the HANA appliance itself, which is on the HANA Studio. It also brings you to the topic where you can move these objects between BW and HANA. Let's say you want to process an info cube on the SAP HANA interface as a view. You can immediately migrate that into the SAP HANA system. So you can import the NetWeaver BW objects directly into the HANA system and then process them here as either an analytic view or a calculation view. So all these processes have become very simple and basically aid you with bringing in the best performance into the industry. So in this training sessions, we're going to look at in this training sessions that we're going to look at, we're going to understand SAP HANA, the core concepts of SAP HANA, the modeling inside SAP HANA. Then we're going to understand BW and how the concepts of HANA and using a schema of HANA is going to change the traditional approach of how BW is handled. So we're going to combine HANA and BW. And then we're going to also look at BW on top of HANA. What is the new features that have been brought into BW on top of HANA? What are 7.4 features when we're using it with HANA as an underlying database? We will be touching on a couple of the replication engines like SLT and bots to bring data into HANA so that you have an idea of how data is brought into SAP HANA itself. All right. So the servers that you have an integration between ECC, BW, and HANA. They also have BW on HANA where we have migrated it from a traditional database to a HANA database. They pretty much see it almost like what you have on a production system. Srini, you have another question?
Yeah, when a normal Oracle-based BW goes on top of HANA as a database, so are you saying we also get access to the HANA modeling, the studio?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's part of the game. I mean.
So it will be something like this. You will have a server that will be given to you. You will be connecting it through the IP address, and you don't have to.
I'm referring to a BW system, not for our access, but generally when a BW system goes on top of HANA as a database, does it necessarily include the HANA Studio also along with the BW workbench?
All right. So what happens here is the BW is, I mean, you have the workbench, right? So you go to RSA1 and then you work on it. Now let's say they give you the HANA Studio. The HANA Studio has different perspectives. And the perspective allows you to even access BW straight away from the HANA Studio itself. You don't have to actually go into BW. You enable this for to show the screens directly on HANA. So you open the BW perspective and you can directly connect to BW on the screens of SAP HANA itself. You also have a web layer where you can build in the different objects directly from SAP HANA itself onto the BW layer.
Okay, so we have two different modeling tools. One is your BW standard modeling and also HANA modeling.
Yes.
When BW goes on HANA.
Yeah, and one more important thing is the customer is having also the HANA appliance. Okay, so if you don't have the HANA appliance, then you don't have the entire speed of using RAMs and the different storage. So there are customers who use just the HANA database because that is cheaper. Okay, so you go and install the HANA database just like how you install Oracle. Okay,
Right.
so all of these possibilities are not there. When customers are using the HANA appliance alongside with a BW system using HANA as an underlying database, all these features are available.
Oh, so it is optional when you, I mean, HANA Studio is optional when you
Yeah,
take BW on top of HANA.
yeah, yeah.
That answers my question. Thanks.
So we will be continuing this topics in tomorrow's session as well. We're going to talk about how the new changes have been brought into SAP HANA. We'll also have a look at the server and see what are the different options that we have. Fahad, you have a question? Fahad Qureshi. All right. So okay, one moment. Srinivasa M. All right. So in case you have any questions, you could look at our website. This is ErpXstreem. You could also call on this number if you have any queries relating to fee structuring or registration, and in case how the server access is given and all of that, you can call on that number. This is the website. I think let me put that on the group chat. All right. Are you speaking, Fahad? I cannot hear you. All right, Srinivasa, do you have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Thanks, Emmanuel. Thanks for the session, and it was nice. I'm having a couple of questions here. Like, I've been into business objects reporting for some time. Having questions regarding the modeling part. Modeling the HANA and one of the
either you're having a bad connection or you're dropping off in between. Hello? Hello?
Create the extracts from BW to HANA, moving the data or something.
Okay, I think I missed out a chunk of what you're trying to say because your connection dropped off in between. You want to repeat that again, please?
Yeah. What I'm trying to ask is, are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is, like, we do have different models, right? So one at the BW layer, one at the HANA, and the other can be at the business objects layer. So my question here is, why can't we treat the HANA as a database and create our models in IDT or IDT and create our own reports? So it is because to push the application logic towards the database? That is one question.
And the second question is what?
Second thing is BW.
Okay. What on BW?
Regarding the ABAP program, is that mandatory? Where can it fit into the whole?
All right, let me explain things to you here. Let me explain a few things.
Hello?
Okay. Hello? Guys?
Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm able to hear.
Okay. I'm going to put everybody on mute for a few minutes before I explain that, all right? So here is the deal. Now, let's say I have all the data available at the database level, okay? Or there is a structuring to bring in data from multiple systems, okay? I need to bring data from ECC and BW and another Oracle database or any other flat file. Bringing that through HANA database or whatever is on HANA and the other databases, I'm going to bring that. There is something called as an IDT, okay? Or let's say, let's add another thing. So here I have what he's trying to say is to bring data from individual systems or individual tables like HANA. I have HANA. I have, let's say, an Oracle database. And let's say I have a SQL. Why should we bring data into HANA and then model it? Why can't we directly do it on the business objects reporting layer itself? All right. The idea of having IDT is basically for that, but what we have as a constraint is if I'm trying to bring these individual tables into the business objects universe and trying to define my logic in here, the chunk of my processing has to happen inside business objects. The universe basically allows you to define joins, but your entire pressure of performance is onto the business objects layer because you're bringing in a huge amounts of data onto the business objects layer. Processing them inside the reporting layer is always something that will not aid your performance. It will bring down your performance. And so you consider having another layer in here which basically has the data processed, and that's why you have, instead of having business objects in here, you would rather have SAP HANA in here, and on top of that you have a business objects layer. Now what this will help you in doing is all the logic is built on the SAP HANA layer, and that logic is directly pushed onto the reporting layer or any of the reporting tools. So the entire processing is done directly inside the SAP HANA. The business objects reporting is basically used for generating and publishing those reports to the end user. So the chunk of performance is done on the SAP HANA side itself. This allows you to improve the speeds of how you are generating the results. The other thing that you've talked about, the BW system, does it need a BAP? Yes, I wouldn't say that you definitely will not need a BAP, but what happens is when you are working on a BW system, majority of times you will build models graphically. You will not have, or SAP's best practices is not to have a BAP code. But there will be sometimes scenarios, not regularly, but there will be sometimes scenarios where some of the complex features are not possible entirely by the graphical layer. In those scenarios, you might want to use ABAP, and so there is and that can be handled only at the transformation level. So in those scenarios, you might want to write ABAP code in here, either usually on a normal team you will have BW, and also you have a few ABAP guys who will help you if you can give them the pseudo logic of what you are trying to do. So I wouldn't say you will have to learn a BAP again to know BW, but gives you a choice. All right, Srinivas? Srini, do you have a question?
I had a question, but I forgot.
Okay.
I think it was around the about the course itself. There was a mention about fast track through a video course in the FAQ. I didn't quite understand that. What was it
So
about?
what some of them, what happens is this course will go on for 45 hours, and 45 hours means at least 30 days of training, all right, between 28 to 30 days of training. Some of them would want to learn it because they already have a BW experience or they're already working on BW and HANA, and they'd want to know more features about it. So for them, a video course is also available so that they can see the entire thing on already recorded sessions. So a way of how the course is sold out is as a video. So you don't have to wait for me to finish all the 28 sessions. You could directly get the videos of all of these, and then so that is an option for people who are really looking at very fast way of getting into already, people who are already into a job and then looking at those options. But
so that does not include this QA session and all that stuff, right?
That's one of the you'll have to choose between whether you want it really fast or. So we're trying to also improve that by having a question answer session over the weekend, so that in case anybody has questions after looking at a particular video, if they have questions they can ask. The only thing about trying to do that is we'll have to look at ways of how each one has a different video that they're looking at, so it gets a little confusing when multiple people come into the session. So we're trying to see how we can streamline that.
There is no syllabus for that particular session, right? It goes across.
Yeah, we haven't streamlined way, but we're doing that right now. We've found that people are definitely interested in doing that as well. So we're trying to improve that.
So so you already have something that I can use, for example, like a fast track, or are you in the process of building it?
We have videos, okay, but again, that is individually up to your choice.
And that includes access also, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, great. All right, I'll talk to Ravi anyways. Yeah.
So yeah, you could have more information if you can speak to Ravi. Right? So they're organizing the thing.
Sure.
Fahad Qureshi, are you saying something? I think I missed on Uma Mahesh. Yeah, just one moment. Uma Mahesh.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, Uma Mahesh Bhaskar.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So actually, I am new to BW. I am not aware of BW. So I don't have any experience on that. So still, this course would be covering BW as well, right? I mean.
That is true. Yes.
Okay.
Because if somebody has to understand HANA on top of BW on top of HANA, we need to know core concepts of BW. So I cannot just jump into, once I finish HANA course, I cannot jump into BW on HANA, but I'll build it so that you understand BW, and then we go on to HANA, BW on top of HANA.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, cool. Mohammed Mustafa.
Yeah, my question is the same, like how much is going to be hand-on practice and how much is going to be the lecture in class?
See, we don't do any hands-on during the class, okay? Everything that I talk, we're going to do it practically on the system. You get to see what I am doing. You get to record what I'm doing on the system. You also will get all the videos of what we're doing. You get to record on your own. I will be giving you exercises. We'll be working on the same server. So I'll be creating a namespace for you, or you can create a namespace for you. You follow a standard. And then I get to see all the work that you're doing. And I understand and assess how on what level you are. All right. So we're going to look at that way of how we're going to train. We're not trying to do simultaneously. I'm not trying to show something on my screen. I don't give you time to go ahead and do it on your screen.
Okay. Yeah. I'm working as a database administrator. Do you think this, but not in a SAP shop? So do you think this training, I can still do that training?
So it is completely dependent on you. I mean, I would say you will have more prospects because it's a very simple way for you to understand how HANA works and how you can bring it to the BW layer, or even look at core HANA development as well. So, I mean, for people who already have SQL knowledge or BW knowledge, it is always going to be an added advantage. So it becomes simpler for you to understand than for people who are not from a core BW or SQL background. So during the course, we will build it from the grassroots level where we try to understand. We try to bring everybody onto the same page, but people who have knowledge on databases and warehousing techniques will definitely have a little more edge to understand what I'm actually talking about. Uma Mahesh Bhaskar,
Yes, sir.
you raised your hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm done. I mean, like.
Okay. Farad Qureshi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. Finally, yes.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Yeah, I just want to confirm the timing of the class. It's going to be same timing the whole time, or is they going to change it?
So we're looking at 9 p.m. EST, but depending on majority of people, we might move it either to 10 p.m. EST or 8 p.m. EST. So it's going to be either 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. So we'll fix a time after we speak to everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in California, so mine is PST time. So right now, for me, was the 6 p.m. when you start 9 p.m. EST.
Yeah.
So I barely finished my work at that time. So it's going to be tough for me if we go early, like if we go 8 p.m. EST, I'm not able to make it then. Or if we stay here, it's going to be a little bit tough for me. But in a way, we can move forward 1 hour, like 10 p.m. EST would be for me like 7 p.m. for me then.
Sure. We'll try to accommodate that. We're looking at all of these because the timing is the biggest thing to bring everybody onto the same room, right? Yeah. So we will figure that out, and then we will definitely keep you posted. We consider that.
I prefer early morning if everybody's okay with that. Early morning, that's what I prefer. It's better, but that's my preference.
I understand, but sometimes that is not completely possible because people have to move to their works, and so they'd want to wake up early and get there. So we might not have, again, it depends completely on the number of people. It makes sense to have at least a batch of 5 or 6 during that time to do a session.
Fine,
yeah.
And so I have one last question. Sorry.
Yeah.
The question is, I don't have any knowledge in BW and stuff, but I do have an understanding concept in SAP because I was learning FIC at one time. But it's not going to be much challenging for me to understand because it's BW on HANA, so you're covering BW and HANA afterwards. So it's not going to be too overwhelming for me to understand BW, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm guaranteeing as well.
Okay. All right.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Noor Ansari, will you be able to share webinar links of all previous sessions? Yes, we will be able to share. Anything from you, Mohammed, Mustafa, or Srinivas? Any questions? Any other questions, guys? Any of you?
Yeah, I'm having one more question. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, Srinivas, go ahead.
Yeah. This is regarding the certification. So, will doing the certification really help us?
All right. So I have a couple of answers for you. So certification is a way. Now, SAP HANA is not something like BW that has been there for a couple of decades or more. It's something that's come very new to the market, like probably 2 years, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. That's how old it is. All right. So the certification allows you to basically let the person who's interviewing you or who's selecting you know that you have at least a specific level of understanding on the tool. You might not have 100%, but you have at least a specific understanding. That is the first check they're going to look. All right. So it looks good on paper when you are sending your resume. but again, you will definitely be interviewed on the skills that you will be defining on your resume. Okay, so having a certification will give you a little edge over the rest of them. Right? So on the selection level, and then after that is how you are going to prove yourself on the interview.
Okay, so the course is going to cater this certification needs, right?
Absolutely. We're going to discuss at the end of the sessions. We're going to talk about certification questions. We'll be looking at 3 certification question papers, each of 80 answers. And that will help us to basically also look and understand what all we have covered. If we have left out something, or we can go ahead and understand that as well.
Okay, thank you.
A way of revising everything.
Hi, Emmanuel, I have one other question.
Srini, go ahead.
Do you also prepare us for BW7.4 on HANA certification? Is there anything like that at all to start with?
See, the HANA certification is a combination of HANA and BW and also BODS and business objects. So whatever is necessary for the certification, I'm going to give a complete course content on all of these. I'm going to discuss all of these topics. So now SAP strategy is basically to make things mandatory and also to relate multiple tools that customers will be using. So they have linked it with business objects, data services, they have linked it with business objects, HANA core development and BW on HANA. So your certification will be that way. There is another certification where you have BW with BI, where you have BW and also all business objects reporting tools. So that is the other course that we will be not looking at the whole of business objects reporting tools. I promise that I'll show you all business objects reporting tools, but we'll not go into the aesthetics of how the reporting colors and how we can put in graphics and all that. I'll show you how we can move data from a HANA layer into the reporting layer. Okay, so yeah.
Okay, so there is no specific BW on HANA certification. I mean, when you
exactly.
Actually I got certified in HANA like almost 3 years ago, but that was very preliminary, and it included only the HANA Studio and the all the things,
must be on Service Pack 1 or something like that.
Right. Yeah. So I'm more interested in the BW on HANA piece.
Okay. Sure.
All right.
What you see on my screen is basically the interface for SAP HANA Studio. So we'd be working on this SAP HANA server. You also have BW on top of HANA, and also you have ECC. You have Business Objects Data Services 4.2 on this server, and you also have all the reporting tools from Business Objects. So you will be able to access all of this. We have these areas that we will be talking about: what are catalogs, what are contents, provisioning, security. So we'll look at this interface and try and understand. Guys, please mute your systems. Yeah.
So you have a fully integrated BW on HANA system and also HANA Studio, and these two are integrated, right? Like you said, we can do the composite views and open ODS.
Composite providers and ODS views, yes, you could.
Okay. So we
Anything
can
else, guys?
between BW and HANA Studio.
Yes, you can move objects once. I'll show you also how to move objects from a HANA layer into BW. Similarly, how you can go ahead and import objects from BW into HANA. So all of these options we will be exploring as we go along this training.
Sure. Also, you'll be focusing on the BW modeling itself, right? On HANA, I mean, as a just as a database.
Absolutely. So we're looking at creating of all the views inside HANA, the attribute view, the analytic view, the calculation view, privileges and procedures and decision tables. So all that is there on the HANA development side. We're going to look at that too. Any other questions, guys?
Yeah, I have one question.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, sorry. I think maybe you already answered, but I wasn't paying attention. The quick question for certification. So basically, after this class finish, you said we're going to talk about certification questions and stuff. So basically, we're going to be prepared for BW certification and as well as HANA certification, or just the BW certification mainly we preparing?
So, Fahad, there is not one certification which says BW on HANA certification. It is either HANA certification or BW with Business Object certification. What you will be ready immediately after this course is over is for the HANA with BW certification, or you'd say HANA certification. And then there is BW certification for in combination with Business Objects reporting tools. So again, that will be whether you would want to look at Business Objects reporting, or you would want to. So you will need a combination of, it's more of Business Objects reporting in that certification and little of BW. Okay, so that's how that certification is placed. So I think
two things.
You would prefer doing the latest HANA certification once this course is complete.
Correct. Okay. But we can still, if you want, we can do the BW certification, because that's what we're learning also here for BW as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there is not one certification already defined for BW7.4, and what is there is a combination of Business Objects reporting with BW. So, yeah. So you probably will have to spend a little more time understanding Business Objects reporting on a clear front, and then you could do your certification.
Yeah, but that covers in this course, right? I don't have to take the course for BAD?
So I'm going to talk about Business Objects data services and all of that, but we will not go very in-depth into Business Objects reporting, because that is a chapter by itself, a very big course. Because Business Objects reporting has a lot of tools, and understanding each of those tools. See, the availability and integration part is simpler, but understanding each of the tools at what are all the possibilities, where each tab is, that becomes a little difficult. All right. So you might not be looking into that depth.
All right.
All right. So you also have the email sent to your inboxes, and we're taking that all the emails that you provided at the registration time to be genuine. So if that's your email address, we have sent the schedule for the next session and timelines, and also the course curriculum you can download from the website. The thing is, sometimes the mail might go into spam or junk, so make sure you go and enable it so that it comes to your inbox. All right, so that once you register, when you have, because every day they'll keep intimating you about that a session's going to start. They give you a timeline, and they'll also keep intimating you that the session's going to start in 2 hours from now, 1 hour from now, 15 minutes from now. So you will have updates and alerts. And also you'll have communication of presentations and recordings and all that. So make sure you go and enable it from your spam, just in case it goes to your spam, to bring it to your inbox. All right?
All right. Thank you.
Cool.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah, I'm having one last question, Emmanuel. Yeah, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, tell me, Srinivas.
Yeah, this question is regarding what are the additional resources we are going to get out of this training, and what I'm saying here is any additional documentation and coupons which will aid us to reduce the amount we pay for the certification, stuff like that.
So you will have the server at all times. You will have certification materials from SAP that we will be providing you. You will have access to the server for a couple of months. You will also have time to speak to me. So these are all some of the things that you will have, definitely.
Okay.
The curriculum, if you look at it, is basically aimed not just completely learning all of these, but it will give you the edge to answer these certification questions comprehensively. Okay.
I have one question. Are you going to give us?
Yeah, tell me.
Are you going to give us the interview?
See, as we go along, we will discuss about what are usually the
Can you hear me?
questions about interviews. Yeah, you're talking about interview questions and all of that, right? So interview questions, yeah, definitely we can talk about these as we go along. We can talk about how, what are the usual, the basic thing about interview is if you are able to explain a nice scenario very confidently to the guy who's interviewing you, majority of it is already accomplished. So we'll talk about scenarios, what happens in real time. I'll be providing you functional specs, technical specs, how requests and results come from the functional team, from the business. So we'll be looking at them even during our practice session. So it'll give you a confidence of how you can answer your interviews. All right, don't worry about that.
Okay.
So if you see a lot of, you can see DICE or any of the job portals, you will find that you would want HANA modeling and also BW on HANA. Business objects is also a combination. So I cannot go ahead and specifically say perspective is BW on HANA or BO on HANA. So a combination of HANA with BW is also hot. A combination of business objects also is hot. This answer is for you, Raghu.
Okay. And tomorrow's session will be the same or it's going to be different?
Tomorrow's session will be exactly at the same time. All right. So by then we'll try speaking to each of you, and then we'll take which is a comfortable time and your interest in the course. So yeah, and yeah, you could write to us. I've sent you the link to the site, right? So you could even write to us, info@erpxstream.com, and we'd be able to provide you with, all right? Alright guys, so I probably think I'll hold it off at this point. And I hope to see all of you in tomorrow's session. We'll be continuing where we left off. We'll be dwelling a little more into BW on HANA, what is BW, and then we'll be trying to look at a few screens to give you a little understanding about what we're going to look through during this training.
Yeah,
Make sure you check your emails and enable it in case if it is in spam to bring it to your inbox so that you will have alerts for tomorrow's session.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Take care and have a nice evening. Thanks for your time. This is from ErpXstreem. Bye again.